Good morning, afternoon, evening, or whatever time is it when you are watching this video. Today we're going to talk about how to brew an English Pale Ale, which is a style also known as bitter. Unlike American Pale Ales, your English Pale Ales will focus more on the bitter side of the beer. And some of the most common examples I have for these beers will be Boddington's Pub Draft, which is really one of my favorite beers. But you also have Young's Bitter, you have Brain's Bitter, you have Fuller's Chiswick Bitter, you have Adnam's Bitter, you have Jeffrey Hudson Bitter, also known as JHB, and other styles. And some of the characteristics that these beers have in common, what makes them English Pale Ales, is that they're normally light yellow to light copper in color. The carbonation is usually low with very little head, although some of these examples, when you buy them in a bottle or canned, they will actually have medium or high carbonation. Specifically, Boddington's, for example, normally has a very good carbonation. The color itself is normally a brilliant clarity. That means it's a clear beer, but because of the color, it's just brilliant. The hop aroma, unlike American Pale Ales, is again moderate to none. The emphasis is placed on the bittering hops, not the aroma hops. The hops, however, will not overpower the malt, and you usually get that caramel-like malt aroma. Fruity esters will normally be moderate to none, although most of them will stay somewhere in the moderate range, and some will actually go a little bit higher. So, no diacetyl is absolutely permitted in this style of beer. And now let's talk about how we get the color and the maltiness for our beer. A basic recipe that you can use is your base malt, which normally is pale ale malt or amber malt, and add about a third of a pound of crystal malt to get that color. How much you use will really depend on whether you're using pale ale or amber malt. And again, amber malt is really nothing more than pale ale malt with some specialty grains to give it that amber color. How much you use again will depend. You have to fall into the range of 1.032 to 1.040, and that is a really light beer, so you gotta be really careful when you're crafting your recipe. Your color will be right around the range of 4 to 14 SRM. Hops. Unlike American Pale Ales, you can use English hops typically, but you can also use American hops. See, in American Pale Ale, normally you can only use American hops. With English Pale Ales, you can use English hops or American hops. They're both permitted, and really what you're looking for in these hops is more of that earthy, resiny, or floral-like aroma and flavor. The IBUs will need to fall right around the 25 to 35 range, so make sure that you use enough to get that. It's not, again, this is just a regular English Pale Ale, which is just a standard or ordinary bitter. Don't confuse it with the special bitter or the extra special bitter beer, the ESBs. This is just ordinary bitter beer. Now, yeast. Yeast normally you want to use or stick with English yeast strains, and the pitching rate should be somewhere around, it should be a lower pitching rate to get those fruity esters to show up. Like I said, most of these beers will have low, or some will even have high fruity esters, which you get by using lower pitching rates. Also, your fermentation temperature will contribute to this, so you want to go towards the high side somewhere. Most of these beers are fermented right around the 69. Some will even push the 70 degrees fermentation temperatures. So how do we spice up English Pale Ales? Well, one thing I've seen some of these brewers do is use a touch of black malt for color adjustment. Now, since the SRM here is right around the 4 to 14, a touch of black malt means little black malt. You don't want to overuse this, so it's just mostly for color adjustment. It's just very little that you will use, if at all. You may want to try using medium sulfate water to kind of mimic the English water. And you can also try using some sugar adjuncts like corn or wheat and Irish moss to clear up your beer. So this is pretty much what you would need to brew an English Pale Ale. And if you want more information on how to brew beer, you can visit our website at brewbeeranddrinkit.com, and we'll see you next time.